Yesterday, we had our first fight. I think the next step is that I bring you to dinner with my family to meet my mother.
I would love to meet your family.
Yeah, I think like in relationship, this is the step, no?
I haven't been at that stage in a relationship in a long time, so I forgot.
כל כוונות טובות, good intention. Yeah. Like I love you. We do like a cool thing.
I also wanted to say I'm sorry. I mean, it was late. I was up for I think 20 hours yesterday. And I mean, it was after we recorded, and then we were talking, and your friend was here, and things just got. I went into another layer of just being back, I guess, in the newsroom like 2 years ago when I was working at Haaretz, and everything. It was just like another. Like yesterday, I was a lawyer and like a translator, and then at the end, like, you know, and a person, and then at the end, it was like a flashback to like newsroom chat, and it like. And, you know, we're all triggered, right? Like we inherited, you know, trauma in our chromosomes. All of this is incredibly triggering. I already mentioned like CPTSD and all these other things. And I'm a survivor of sexual assault. Like it's just so triggering. And things got a little like, they got like really fast, and I, you know, I'm sometimes like, I can't take like social cues in a room sometimes, like when, you know, and then and I'm not proud of it. I just like stormed out. I got like, you know, I just was like, what, you know, if that's how you feel, then I'm out. And I left, and you were like, that's no way to leave. And we hugged, you know, and I apologized, and you were like, it's okay. But I ended up like crying for like the next hour and a half and calling friends. I felt so bad.
Today is Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. My name is 𝕊𝕋𝔼𝔻𝕼, taking over for Gabbi, who had a rough time in the reserve duty that she was called to do and was just unable to continue with these reports. I am a podcaster. I'm a former journalist, you can say. I live in a small village called 𝕊𝕉𝔼𝔻 in the center north of Israel, so not nearby any of the hot conflict zones, but definitely on alert at all times. Today we are seeing continuing rocket attacks all over central and southern Israel. We keep seeing numbers of the dead and wounded rising through media. We're told hundreds of dead, getting into over 1,000 deaths, a couple of thousands wounded, a lot of people in hospital. By this time, Tuesday, it looks like the towns, the kibbutzim, the smaller villages around Gaza that were taken by terrorists on Saturday are by now freed and retaken by IDF forces. There's still the danger of terrorists hiding in Israel territory still from Saturday's surprise attack. So that whole area is filled with a huge amount of military personnel. Also, we're seeing Lebanon heating up with all kinds of smaller scale attacks and alarms going off, and some action near the border. Everyone is tense, waiting for the northern attack to join the southern attack. So far, nothing in a large scale, but we have our eyes toward that area as well. I think that's it for today. I'll try again tomorrow.
You asked about values yesterday. You said we talked about values.
We said something funny about values. No, there was a punch there.
I don't know what the
You
punch
said
was.
like, if we wrote our value or something.
Like our mission statement, like our values or something. Like, what are the values? Oh, it was a conversation about like, what are our values? Like, what are we trying to achieve or something like that?
And then you say, if we had we had the book of our
Like
values, what it was?
Like a mission statement, like a I don't remember exactly what it was.
No, but it was funny. We should catch the gag. It was much more funny yesterday. Should put microphone all the time. Like even, yeah. First of all, cheers. We drink Martini Bianco ice, sparkling water, and slice of lemon. Very refreshing. I don't know how to say it in proper English. To find the exact word. What I'm trying to say is, I live in Tel Aviv in the last 10 years, and you actually can live here. Imagine this is Berlin with like better weather and more expensive, but like, okay, from every few years there is like an alarm or something, like there is a terror attack, something horrible happened, but keep going. Like, you live your life as same as all like the other, big metropolitan, Paris, Berlin, whatever. I literally think about the stuff that מעסיקים אותי, make me busy, how do you say?
כאילו מעסיקים אותך באיזה קטע?
כאילו ביום יום, הדברים שאני חושב עליהם.
Oh, the things that like preoccupy you on a daily basis.
I date with this girl, she answer me, she don't answer me, like this guy think my music is good, this guy is like making me is like a douchebag in this bar, this bar is cool, this bar is not, should we do this drug this weekend, dude, like they don't, she blah 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 blah, this coffee is, it's cool enough, like do I wear the right stuff? And then I'm saying like, where have I been in the last 10 years? Like, I didn't thought about like Gaza, my family safety-ness, like the future, I was like completely menutak.
Completely disconnected. Cut off.
How can we manage to live this dissonance?
Well, before we get into how to manage the dissonance, it sounds like you're giving yourself a hard time for that. And I just want to remind you of yesterday, part of what you were saying was you were born into this chaos. And so if you were able to kind of create an oasis where you could create and play and imagine after having a childhood that was racked by the intifadas and all sorts of other stuff, then is that such a bad thing? I mean, it allowed you to become the kind of person that you are now that can produce things and edit them and release them and create, right? So I don't think this is the time for self-blame. The dissonance is there all the time. I think even if you're reading the news all the time, right? Like over the past 10 years, like what is that really pushing things in a different direction? I don't think so. How do you manage the cognitive disconnect? I mean, it's like this. When you're like walking up the stairs and you're holding a glass of water and you're not thinking about holding the glass of water or walking up the stairs, you're thinking about that girl that you texted that maybe didn't text you back or where you're going. You can't hold on to everything at the same time. You just can't. If you were aware all the time of every single injustice happening in the world right now, and believe me, it's a bottomless pit. It's terrible. Even down to how this iPhone in front of me was manufactured. You would possibly be paralyzed, which is how I spent a long time in my life. I was paralyzed into not creating because I was so also, so if you had to be how you were to get to where you are now, I, for one, am super grateful because this that's happening between us these past few days and that's happening right now for me and maybe for even 5 listeners is just incredibly nurturing and nourishing and kind of a refuge during the storm. So I'm grateful.
You know the Outcast song? Paralyzed.
And I love them. I was listening to 𝕊𝕊𝔸𝔽𝔼. Do you know that one from the 1994 album? I forgot the name. But I listened to it like 35 times in 2 days last week before all this went down. It was just like...
So the first word is paralyzed, isn't it? Oh, yeah.
Caroline.
It's Caroline?
Caroline.
I thought it's paralyzed. Oh, what's a shame.
Half the time.
יצאתי טמבל.
Need a golden calculator to divide time it takes to and realize.
How do you say יצאתי טמבל באנגלית? I embarrass myself in front of the listeners.
I don't think so at all. I heard a really funny thing recently where it was like someone called into a radio station, like a Spanish speaking radio station. There's a lot of Latin Americans and everything in the States. I grew up in South Florida. I love those stations. Anyway, so he calls in and he asks in Spanish to play this song like Reebok or Nike, but he does it like with an accent. And the radio DJ is just like, what? And he's like, can you play Reebok or Nike? Something like that. And then the DJ puts on, this is the rhythm of the night.
Wow,
yeah, it's
amazing.
This is the rhythm of the night. Reebok or Nike. And then you're just like, wow, I love that.
Okay, enough with the pop culture. Let's speak about war.
Speaking of war, some interesting things happened right before the war started. Do you remember the news story about the American tourists that went into the Israel Museum in Jerusalem and broke 2 statues from about 2,000 years ago?
Tell me more.
One of them, if I remember correctly, it's like Roman antiquities from this region. One of them was a statuette of Athena, the goddess of craft and warfare. And the other statue is like, those like mixed animal things that like you saw. I don't remember the name for it. But anyway, it's like holding the wheel of Nemesis, which is like enemy, dark, I don't know. Anyway, those things were shattered by someone that can't. It's like unprecedented in the museum's history. Like right before this came out.
But
this started. I don't know if you're into symbols or synchronicity or like events that are very strange. I saw a lionfish, which is a super predator invasive species. It can paralyze or kill a human.
Paralyzed.
He went in there, broke them, and then the reason he gave for breaking these statues was because they're blasphemous and go against like God. It's like a religious thing. Crazy. And I saw this lionfish. It's a super rare sighting. I was there with someone who's like a surfer for like 20, 30 years. And he was like, in my whole life, I've never seen one of these off the coast of the Mediterranean. And then I looked up what's the symbolism of seeing a lionfish. And it said that in some cultures, it's viewed as a bad omen. This was like a week before everything started. I don't know. It's a dark time. So I guess it makes sense that I'm like, kind of connecting weird things.
I'll put sound of like magic.
This is like the Joe Rogan part of the podcast where we're like pyramids, symbols, like.
I never listened.
Well, I don't know if you need to start now.
It's like to not see the 𝕊𝔻𝔽𝔼.
Oh, you haven't seen The Wire?
No, but I watched Sopranos.
That's great.
Shout out for Christopher Moltisanti.
We haven't really talked about the war, though. We haven't talked about today.
Yeah, we need to speak about like dark shit, no?
To be honest, I've barely been watching the news today. I've been on a lot of. We're trying to raise funds for
our podcast.
No, for soldiers in the field that need gear and humanitarian efforts, and get a journalism hub off the ground and connect people and resources. The stuff we were talking about yesterday. But I heard that there were a few bright points today. Like they found 30 people that had been hiding somewhere in one of the villages in the south. They were just hiding for 3 days. Like, I don't even know where they got water and food. Like someone just told me, like in the house where I'm sheltering, they were like, oh, some good news, blah, 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 30 people. So I know that happened today. I don't really, do you know what happened today? I mean, I know it's harrowing and, obviously, but.
I didn't know about that. I heard about people, which I don't know, but this is like second or third circle of people that I know that been murdered. And I've been watch the news. I have friends who right now in 𝕊𝔸𝔽𝔼.
Reservists that have been called up.
Yeah. I don't know. My ex texted me. It's okay to speak about that.
Yeah, we're people. And we'll do the disclaimer at the end, right?
We should do it in the beginning. Like, man, next episode.
I better have it prepared.
So she texted me. She asked, how am I? And I was very excited about that. Suddenly, there is thing about like really bad time in Israel that all the rules that you invent to yourself, for example, like I'm not going to speak with my ex. In dark time, things look really different. And you think about like the days before and you feel a bit stupid and ילדותי.
Like childish?
Yeah.
There is something tender about it now, though, what you mean, right? Like that it's really dark, but there's also this tenderness. It's like the ego games are kind of cast aside. And
yeah, between people. Also, like we're sitting on the shelter a few hours ago. All those little children that sat with us, people from...
refugee children also,
yes.
Yeah.
And during like the last year, I always like fight with them, argue with them, like just stop, do crazy shit beneath my window or play soccer. And next thing you know, I just sit with them and the little cute girl give me like high five all the time during like we hear bombing outside. Like
in a sense, this war is like clarifying a lot of divisions that I think people didn't realize existed between them. Like I called out some friends yesterday, no longer. And I was just like, did you forget where I live? Like we were talking last week, like that level of friendship. They're like, no, I've been following your stories and I assumed you're safe. As if like what? Safe just because like I haven't been maimed, tortured, or raped? Like this has been an easy situation. Like what's the problem to check in? You know what I mean? But like, so those divisions have become clearer, but at the same time, like these other divisions, like between you and your ex, you and these neighbors that you're just like, oh my God, I wish they would like never like kick their soccer ball like right into my wall over and over again. It's just like that becomes blurrier. There's more camaraderie. After the blood donation drive the other day, like I was just like woozy and my friend picked me up, and because there was a terrorist that had been like two terrorists that were there was a search for them in central Tel Aviv. So they blocked off like right where blood drive was. And it was pretty scary. You know, there were a lot of them on the loose still. And she was like, I'm at my mom's nearby. I'll wait for you to be done. She waited another 2 hours for me to be done there. And then, you know, drove me to their place, whatever. Anyway, I went into this grocery to get vegetables and I was just kind of phased. And this completely random stranger was like, do you need anything? Do you need help? Like, people are just, the lines are open. The heart lines are open between people. The heart lines are open between you and your ex in those texts, and the heart lines are open between, you know, neighbors, and the heart lines were open between me and my, you know, cuckoo, really intense, you know, next door neighbor, synagogue friends who are always, you know, kind of, we've been arguing about the shared alley. And I went in there, I ran home yesterday to grab some supplies, and they were there, and you know, there was jokey sort of banter, you know, it's like everything's suddenly pales in comparison, and there's actual things that need to be done. There's work that needs to be done. There's so much hurt and pain that people are, you know, smiling at each other more, and they're just saying like, you know, shalom, 𝕊𝕍𝔼𝔻𝕼, like, hey, how are you? And like smiling at each other on the street a bit more. And that's really nice. And I'm really, really, really blown away by just how quick and resourceful and intimate, and it's hard to describe even. Like, just I'm in contact with people that I've never met in real life, that, you know, everyone's like kind of connecting someone to someone else that could be relevant for whatever they're mobilizing. Incredibly, it just, people that you would, one woman who's like the first woman to have ever served on like an Israeli naval ship in a command, you know, in a combat thing like 30 years ago. She's like started her own nonprofit in America now, like, so that people can donate more easily from the States. And someone put me in contact with her. And then the person I'm sheltering with was like, do you know who this is? Like, this is blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I only realized that after we had been texting, and I was like, by the way, I was just told who you are. And like, it's just like, you're a badass. Like, thank you so much. Like, what an honor. And like, there's no like fuffity like between people. It's just like, she's like, no, thank you. Like, it's just super raw. It's unfiltered. It's real. And going back to our values, I really did think about it last night and today. I know it's getting clearer and clearer to me what my values are. And it's not like a list of 20 things. It's like, be real, call people out, be compassionate, you know, show up, bring it.
How do you say in the States? Keep it real.
Keep it real, you know?
שמרו על זה אמיתי.
Yeah, keep it real. Big thank you to Shema Podcast Sound Production for hosting us and digitally distributing this podcast. To Gabbi Briner for rounding up and summarizing today's events. Tal Stadler for design. Dor Komet, co-producer, and whose lovely voice you've been hearing.
And editing. And
editing, of course. How can I forget? Every day. That is, I'm still blown away by that. And to myself, Amy Sapan. Can I thank myself? Is that a weird thing to do?
Of course.
And thank you to all of you for listening to us, for keeping an open mind and an open heart, and for, well, we'd really appreciate it if you didn't judge us, hold anything against us. We're really speaking live, raw, from the bottom of our heart, off the cuff. And none of this has been fact-checked, written before. This is full-on improvised. So thank you. Stay safe. And we'll be together tomorrow. Good night. Good day. Good evening.